Some in the media now saying members of the press were too quick to dismiss the theory COVID could have leaked from a lab.
I think a lot of people have egg on their face. This was an idea that was first put forward by Mike Pompeo, Secretary of State, Donald Trump. And look, some things may be true even if Donald Trump said them.
I think a lot of people on the political left and a lot of people in the media made this mistake. They said, wow, if Tom Cotton is saying something, it can't be true, or they assumed that. And that's not right.
And according to a new report, British intelligence now thinks a leak from that lab in Wuhan could be, quote, feasible. Jesse?
Yes.
I like looking at Greg when I call him.
You did that last time.
You like that. You like
all white
that.
guys
You
look
like
alike.
that.
I know, I get it.
I did that on
At least you're
purpose.
not looking at Dagan and thinking of me.
You like that, though. What do you think went on here?
Are you talking to me or
What do you think went on here? JG, I'll call you Jesse Gray. What do you think went on here?
I'll tell you exactly what happened. And this is actually the media admitting they're bad at their jobs. Here's Chuck Todd. He says the lab leak got tangled up in politics and conflated with the idea that the Chinese deliberately release it. Who was the one that tangled it? Who was the one that conflated it? It was the media that did that. So you're getting now the media, which they love to talk about themselves. I'm a member of the media. I love to talk about myself, too. But they're the ones screwing up. So then they have to talk about how much they screw up. And it's fun to watch, because they're not just saying, I made a mistake. They're saying we deliberately made a mistake. They're saying we didn't believe our own head. They're saying we don't believe Republicans, we're biased, and we're lazy. And they're admitting that they didn't follow up on this theory because of politics. Now, in what industry do you just cell phone yourself like that and just say you're bad at your job, and then you think you need a pat on the back by admitting that you screwed up? I mean, these people are so self-obsessed that they think they're somehow doing the honorable thing by admitting they made a mistake.
You agree?
Yeah. I think the question now is how does the media handle this constant, to Tom Cotton's most recent point, cover-up that it continues to engage in, not providing any evidence, not bringing any conclusions from the lab, saying that China really still needs to pay. How many journalists are going to learn from their mistake and not shut down any idea that comes from Donald Trump, Mike Pompeo, Tom Cotton, and others, and actually ask the questions? And I think if you bring yourself back to those dark days when we were starting to hear about these sort of ideas and this theory about the Wuhan lab. And it was worrisome to see the mainstream media not digging in, not asking the questions, not even considering that to be a case. And I'm not saying everyone, but many in the media. That's a problem. That's their job.
Dagan, did they get credit for, any of them getting the credit for saying, look, we made a mistake, we should have done this differently? Do you give them a pass?
They didn't say they made a mistake. They said it was Trump's fault. They're still saying it's Trump's fault, that it was an idea floated by Mike Pompeo. No, it wasn't. It was a reasonable thing to question, and it was Tom Cotton in late January last year. Oh, and then there was Bo Tao Xiao of South China University of Technology, who posted a paper about the virus originating possibly from a lab in Wuhan, from the lab in Wuhan. Of course, that paper was taken down, but they were so anti-Trump that they're anti-science, that they're anti-reason, that they're anti-logic, and they're perfectly happy with that, because if they had talked about this lab leak theory last year, Trump might have won. Trump might still be the president, and that was the goal all along. It was purely political. They still can't own their mistake. The fact that they're malicious, makeup-wearing, smug hucksters who spouted Chinese Communist Party propaganda for the last year.
Greg, let's assume that the Chinese that this lab where the leak came from and the press was snookered and was intentional. What do we do going from here? What's the answer to try to prevent this?
This is an interesting problem, because I think the Chinese have us over a barrel of wet bats, because all they have to do is show that we had any bit of funding during this, right? If the United States helped fund this thing, how is the United States going to sue them? We're going to have to sue ourselves, right? Because if we had I kind of think we had some funding. I keep hearing this story about how they waived these restrictions that allowed the funding to continue. And I imagine that's probably why nothing is going to happen, because we might have our fingers all over those bats. But I like the self-reflection. I agree with Dagan that they're only doing self-reflection because there's no risk of danger involved. Trump already lost. So it's like now it's just meaningless to this. But I think that the weird thing about the media is they're not singularly wrong, they're doubly wrong. So they choose the wrong idea, and they avoid the right idea and then choose the wrong idea. So they're doubly wrong. They say, this Wuhan lab theory didn't work, but we really love Andrew Cuomo and what he's been doing in New York. It's like, no. Or else they'll go and they'll blame DeSantis for something. If you look at every facet of life and how the media impacts it, it's never good, whether it's COVID or it's crime or it's race or it's pro-life matters. Whatever it is, when they add a veneer that makes it far more damaging than it has to be and creates unnecessary pain and suffering for a lot of people. I mean, imagine if a surgeon decided not to use an effective therapy on your kid because he went to school with the scientists and they didn't get along. That's the media.
Are you saying if we got rid of all of the media except Fox, we'd have a better country?
Legacy media.
Legacy
Get rid of
media.
legacy media. No. I like voices. In fact, to that point, we don't mind being wrong. We don't mind talking about wrong. This was all based on an idea that they couldn't accept the fact that the other side could be right. They can't accept the fact that Trump was right or Pompeo or Tim Cotton. Tom Cotton?
Tom
Cotton.
He goes by Tom.
Tom Cotton.
They took it further. They derided and attacked people who brought up the lab theory, that they called us kooks and conspiracy theorists.
As you can tell, we're excited.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.